Christine.
Welcome. Hello. Oh, we got a lot of waivers. All right, cool. Welcome. All right. So I hopped right on at 6. And so I'm sorry I was running from dinner yet again. This is a bad time for me to do this class, but I'm doing it anyway. So I hope you guys are having an awesome week. Man, God has just been giving me so much great stuff lately. I'm so excited about what he's doing in the earth right now. I hope you guys are feeling it. It's a big deal, and there's so much happening everywhere, and we all need to be a part of it. So I hope, okay, this is our final session for Intro to Engaging Heaven. I hope you have gotten a lot from it. Of course, you're welcome to take again if you'd like, but this is our final session of this class, so 6 of 6. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you guys, I hope you are growing and functioning in the heavenly places already because of what we're doing. If you're not, run after it, okay? Because I just have to give you a little bit of urgency. There's stuff happening in the world right now that we are desperately needed. God is saying, I'm using my body to bring something supernatural to the earth because things are happening supernaturally on the good and the bad side that have never happened before. And so just know that we are a part of it. And so if you can start functioning in the heavenly places, gain some responsibility, grow in intimacy with God so you know and hear what's happening, and so that you can be a part of it with him. He's going to give you more and more responsibility and authority in the earth, and it is exciting. So anyway, today we are going to talk about kingdom order and time. Okay, so part of this is going to be really interesting. Part of it is going to be stuff that you might be like, what? And then others of it might be really stretching you. And so we'll just see what happens. Maybe you guys will be like me when I first heard some of this and I was like, yes, I'm not alone. So anyway, I hope you guys feel that way and you get some good, exciting stuff happening in your life. But I'm going to pull up, if you don't mind, I'm going to pull up a document that I'm going to share with you guys, okay? Maybe not right at the moment, but I will eventually. So just so you know, I really have had a great time as we've been on this class. It has been a good session. Not just a session. I say this one is a session, but the class itself has been really good. A lot of people growing, a lot of good testimonies coming out of it. I hope that everyone knows that you don't need me to seek God in this way. You just need Jesus. And so as long as you go with Jesus, he will continue to teach you. He will continue to grow you and take you new places that I've never been. And so just whatever you do, please keep connected so we can all grow together. That's what I would love. You don't have to, but I really believe that he is connecting us all around the world so that we can be of one heart, one mind, and be working together to see his kingdom come. So anyway, just wanted to put that out there, how much I've enjoyed you guys. So we're going to talk about kingdom order. Kingdom order is really important to me and close to my heart. And the reason it is, by the way, I'm going to mute everybody. Love you all, but there's too much background noise. All right. If you need to unmute yourself, please go ahead and do that anytime. But I want to tell you that the reason kingdom order is important to me is because God made it important to me. It was never important to me before he revealed to me that this was part of his plan for my life. And when that happened, it changed everything for me. I started having a real passion about it. He started revealing more and more about it to me and what that means. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about what that even is. Because first of all, when he said that to me, I did not understand. He said that I will help establish kingdom order in the earth. Well, that didn't make sense to me because I didn't know what kingdom order was. He slowly started showing me these different numbers and these different structures and all of this sort of thing. And so here is kind of how it works. I hope you guys understand that the only way that the Holy Spirit can come and fill us and fill what we're doing is if we are a reflection of what is happening in the heavenlies. And so I don't know if that makes much sense to you, but the whole reason that we want to look like him, well, just because we love him, there's that. But also it's because when we look like him, we come and get filled to where we will start functioning as him. And when we don't do that in the church, and I'm saying corporately, okay, when we don't do that corporately as the church, and we just make up our own kingdom, and we start making up our own structures, and we start deciding, well, this would be really good to do. Well, even though it might be done with good intention, it's not going to be able to bring the kingdom to the earth. And the reason is because when we're doing something that is of our own power, in our own likeness, and it's not in God's likeness, it just doesn't work. So here's kind of how it works. Okay, so in the heavenly realms, all of his courts are kind of like this. Here's God at the top. And then it's kind of like a triangle. Okay, I'm not very good at making this with my fingers, but you get the point, okay? So he establishes things like this to where he's over everything. In the earth, when we establish something, it will be a reflection. So it's supposed to be like this, okay? And what this means is, for instance, if God puts me in charge of something, I am not supposed to be in charge in a way that it's a top-down leadership. It's supposed to be the opposite, to where I'm at the bottom and I'm helping push people up to where what they're doing is I'm supporting people to go forward and go out and do their thing to where they're elevated, not me. Does that make sense? And it's just the opposite. And so what happens is he's shown these different structures in the heavenly realms. And so I'm going to show you what he has released to us. And this is a blueprint. A blueprint is simply something you get from the Lord that is just like a blueprint would be in the earth. So if you have a blueprint for a house, it's going to be on paper what the house is going to look like, right? The house itself is going to actually be a real structure that functions in a certain way. You're not going to see that on the blueprint itself, but it's going to be here's how you build it. Here's what it looks like. So we receive blueprints from the heavenly realms. There are many places you can do that. I've received blueprint. I personally don't receive blueprints. I'll just say that. Not everyone is meant to receive blueprints. I did not know that when I first was engaging. And in fact, one time I was up and I was like hearing about all these blueprints and I hadn't done that. And I was taking this court of scrolls, or not court of scrolls. It was like a room of scrolls, scroll room. And I knew that you could receive blueprints and mandates there. So I asked for a blueprint. I said, okay, can I have a blueprint now? And I was told, no, you can't receive a blueprint. And I'm like, oh. And it was like this, I was just shot down, and I felt like, wow, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? And then I'm like, maybe I'm just not mature enough. And I went through this whole thing in my head that was not from the Lord, by the way. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to go back and ask why. Like, what can I do to get blueprint then? And so I went back and I said, so why is it that I can't receive a blueprint? And then he showed me that I'm not supposed to receive blueprints. I'm supposed to give blueprints, which is totally, it was beyond anything I thought. But my spiritual gift in the heavenlies is I'm a giver. And so anything that I get, it is to give, and it's not for me. And so I am part of a court in the heavenly realms that we release blueprints to people in the earth. Well, that was beyond my understanding at that point. So, I just want you to know you don't have to function like everyone else, that these are for different people. And just because someone else receives the blueprint doesn't mean that you're less than that. But everyone will be attached to a blueprint. And so when I say that, I mean, you may not receive the blueprint, but you may be called to that blueprint. And so I'm going to show you kind of what a blueprint looks like. You will have blueprints for businesses. You'll have blueprints for ministries, all sorts of things in the earth. And you'll see how it's a reflection of everything we've talked about when we talk about going to our mountains, so we have these 7 different areas of influence. That's how everything is structured in the heavenly realms. And so when you receive a blueprint, there will be 7 different mountains that you have. And so you'll have this first mountain is whatever it is. So I'm going to show you the source blueprint. And so you'll kind of give it an idea of what a blueprint looks like. Now you may receive a blueprint that is, you'll receive different circles or see it in different ways. Many people see it in kind of 3-dimensional, that sort of thing. That doesn't matter. This is just kind of we put it on paper to make it easy, okay? So anyway, I'll show you the blueprint. I'm going to share a screen with you so you can see. All right, so I hope you guys can see this okay. Let me do this bit. Okay. There you go. It's a little bit bigger. I hope that's better. Now I just lost Zoom. Hold on 1 second. All right. Okay, this is better. Nope, that's not right. Okay, there. Now you guys, can you see this? Okay, good. All right, so here is, we call it an apostolic resource center or a hub. This is what the source is. So the place that we minister out of is called the source, and it's an ARC, an apostolic resource center. Our 7 main mountains are resources and provision, kingdom order, which I'm teaching on right now, woot woot. And then if you can't tell, I'm attached to the Kingdom Order Mountain. And then mentoring and training, also I'm part of the Mentoring and Training Mountain. Healing Ministries, also I'm a part of the Healing Ministries Mountain. Missions and Advocacy, I'm here too. Word and Teaching, kind of, I'm part of that in a little bit. And then Worship and Intercession, I just help with that, but I'm not really part of that. So anyway, here are the 7 different mountains. You may not have as much responsibility as me, and you might just be like, I'm all about the healing ministries. This is what God has shown me. So that's totally normal. And I will have a different role than other people. So I'll show you kind of what this looks like played out. So I'm going to show you some of our sub-mountains, okay? So basically, all of your mountains will also have sub-mountains that will be released to you over time. Now, here's just some of the sub-mountains that we have put together. This is not complete. We haven't even been able to write it all down yet. And not only that, but we haven't received it all from the Lord. So whatever we do, we are not making up these things. This is the important thing about a blueprint. When you receive a blueprint, it's from the Lord. You don't make up, this is what I think it should be. Okay, so a lot of churches, and I'm saying this because I have been in ministry my whole life, not my whole life, my whole adult life anyway. I've been in ministry and been a part of a lot of different churches and seen how a lot of different ones work with committees or teams or whatever, but none of it has any kingdom order. And so now, a lot of people are receiving this in the earth right now, so don't get me wrong. This is not from just me. This is a lot of ministries are receiving these things. A lot of people are receiving these things and don't even know that they're receiving it from the Lord. I mean, well, they know that it's coming from the Lord, but not from the heavenlies. And so whatever, it doesn't matter. You know, a lot of people receive things from the Lord, even though they don't understand that they're engaging the heavenlies. So our provision and resources mountain, underneath that, we know of 5 mountains. Doesn't mean it doesn't have 7 mountains. It means these are ones that we know about so far, okay? So database, facilities, finances, materials, which is audio, video, and print, and refuge resources. You know, you can see that. Healing. This one, you know, I have a healing mandate. I am not part of all of the healing mountains. So the healing mountain has inner healing, which is soul, mind, will, and emotions, physical or natural healing, laying on of hands, bloodline cleansing. Okay, so I have a big part in a lot of these, the physical, the laying on of hands, and bloodline cleansing. I don't do a lot with the inner healing. I go and I refer people to people who are part of the inner healing mountain. So, you know, a lot of you may have seen, I refer a lot of people who need some You know, if you have been through a lot of trauma in your life or whatever, and you come, you can deal with some of that in the courts, but some of the things that you need to do is some more inner healing stuff. So I might send you to a lady who does freedom ministries, or someone who does sozo or whatever in our ministries. And so we have an inner healing mountain where a lot of people do different kinds, God encounters, stuff like that, that will bring them more of that inner healing than I can do. And so you'll see we have worship and intercession, 24/7 house of prayer, prayer strategy, and worship leader training. You know, I could go on for a long time, but even under those, you'll see like part of our healing mountain, our sub mountain is the physical healing. Then we have 7 sub mountains under that. So this one's a little more developed than other things. So we have essential oils, laying on of hands and anointing, chiropractic, nutrition, water, nutraceuticals, and frequency, which is quantum physics. And so anyway, I hope that helps you, gives you an idea. But here's the other thing about how kingdom order works. It's not just that we receive a blueprint and outwork it. Everything has an order to the governing of it. And so this is how God's government is coming to the earth. It is his government that comes into the church. So that doesn't mean we are judges, okay? It's nothing like that. We go to the heavenly courts for that. But what we do is, for instance, this Apostolic Resource Center has a bench of 3. That is a reflection of what the Lord has. So if you look, bench of 3 with the Lord would be Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? So they are the ones who govern everything. We do the same thing, just the opposite. So I'm on a bench of 3 here with my sister, you guys know her, and another person. And what we do, our whole job is to go and engage in the heavenly places and see what God wants us to do. We watch over it to make sure the enemy's not coming up. We see if there's legislation that needs to be put into place. We just do whatever God tells us to do. But at the same time, he's the one who helps us govern the blueprint. So say, for instance, worship intercession. This has been something that has not been fully developing well at the source. So what we are doing is we're seeking, okay, where's the kingdom government for this mountain? And so who's supposed to be on the bench of 3 here? And then each of the Apostolic Resource Center not only has a bench of 3, but a bench of 7. So one person from each of these mountains is part of a bench of 7, and they're the ones who are outworking the ministry. So for instance, for me, I'm all the time engaging in heaven. I'm not one who does evangelism unless, you know, everybody has these things where you might prophesy at some time, you might do evangelism at some time, but that's certainly not an office I hold, if you know what I mean. So it's not something that is my call in my life. So though I might do that here and there, that's not something I do all the time. But this missions and advocacy one, you know, we work with Church on the Street where they are going out every single week and evangelizing, and that's their big thing is evangelism, right? Well, that's important. It's an important part of the body. They have their own blueprint and their own thing. We just help equip them. So part of what we do is we are just an equipping and sending ministry. So we help people, the church, get connected, get equipped, and send them out. And so that's the whole thing. It's not about building our own kingdom. It's about making sure the kingdom is coming to the earth. The Kingdom Order Mountain, what I love about this is we just help people get their blueprints. Once we see that people have their blueprints, then we help them establish the Kingdom Order. Say let's seek God on who's supposed to be on the bench 3, who's supposed to be on the bench 7. How do we make sure this starts out working? Because a lot of times we get these blueprints and have no idea what to do with them. Okay, well, I'm certainly not able to do everything on this whole thing. I mean, look, you can't even see all this. Okay, so I'm going to just take a look at this. You think I can do all of this ministry myself? Of course not, right? This is going to take hundreds, if not thousands of people. So how does this happen? We have to make sure we have the government, and then we connect and say, Aaron Michael, I think you may be connected to the source. What do you think? Have you heard anything? You know, this is how it happened. She was in one of my intro classes, and I just, in my spirit, knew she was attached to this blueprint. Doesn't make sense because she's in Washington, right? Okay, doesn't matter. God said yes. In fact, he said, by the way, move to Wichita. Okay, so here she is in Wichita working at the source. And when I say working at the source, none of us actually work at the source like a business and get paid for it. This is all like everybody's volunteering. Everybody's giving their time and effort for the Lord. Hopefully someday we'll be financed in a way that we can do it full time. But as for right now, everybody's just volunteering. So anyway, there are lots of people everywhere. A lot of people, I mean, you guys have seen, we have people who are part of the Healing Mountain who they do all of this from far away. That's totally fine. We have someone who's part of the Provisions and Resource Mountain that what he does is he works on all of our website stuff, you know. Well, he lives in Dallas. That's not, he's not even close to here, but he's attached to this blueprint. And so everybody has a different purpose, and you may be attached to a blueprint that is not even in your area. Or you might be attached to a couple different blueprints. Like for me, I'm attached to a couple different blueprints and I govern in a couple different blueprints. So you don't always have to be a part of that one blueprint that's right by you. Okay, I'm gonna unshare for a minute and we can get back to it. Anyway, the point for saying all this is it might surprise you when you see something and you go, oh my goodness, that's me. You know, sometimes it happens by looking over a blueprint and seeing stuff like that, and you just get a rise in your spirit and you know. Other times God just says, I don't know why, but you're connected to this person, you know, and when that happens, you know, somehow you're supposed to be connected in what they're doing. Like for instance, joy, like joy dance, right? Choice. Anyway, we're connected in our business mountain. And so we're connected in this way. It's also ministry, it's this whole thing, but we're definitely connected. When I saw her for the first time, I knew we were connected. I even was like, I don't know. I know this is strange, but I think I might need to tell you about this. And so anyway, that just happens sometimes where you just get this feeling like you know you're connected. There are times when we're connected in the spirit with someone, we're not attached to the same blueprint, but our blueprints overlap. So when you get a blueprint in the heavenly realms, it will always overlap with another blueprint. And it may not be a blueprint of someone you know yet. And so don't feel like, what? How come? But we're not meant to do ministry on our own. We are all supposed to be united. And so all across the world, every blueprint is connected in some way. So for instance, our worship one, we have many different people who come to the source and help in worship, some who are attached to other blueprints, but we overlap in the worship part. And so even though they're attached to this blueprint, we're attached to this, we both have worship in our blueprint. And so we're attaching in that part. Same thing with healing. You know, it happens with everything we do. We'll have some sort of thing. So we have lots of blueprints that are attaching to us because of the kingdom order thing, because God is showing us we are supposed to help them in this area. And so you'll see that with whatever you do, you will have some sort of overlap with other bodies of believers. And it's exciting when that happens. It's strange because we haven't been used to functioning like this as the church. You know, most of the church has been functioning like, well, I'm going to build my own thing and we love you guys over there, but we love you from afar. And, you know, the truth is we're all supposed to work together. It's just hard to see that unless you see a blueprint. When you see a blueprint, it becomes easy to see how you can overlap. But if you don't receive a blueprint and you're just like, well, I don't know how to do what they're doing, so guess we're just going to leave that alone. You know, that's what happens when we're not looking from a heavenly perspective. And so when we are, it's easier to see how we can overlap in these different areas, and we can just work together on an event or whatever it might be. So anyway, that's kingdom order for you. Before I talk about time, can I open up for questions about kingdom order? By the way, you can unmute if you'd like, or you can ask a question in the chat box. Okay, I can't tell if people are typing or just being silent, so interrupt me if you do have a question that you're slower
I'll
than I
keep
am.
an eye on the chat, and if anything pops up, I'll let you know.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Well, let me talk about time then. Okay, these two things, they don't really overlap very much. In a way they do, but most people don't see it. So it might seem very disconnected to you. But God showed me that I needed to talk about time when I first started doing this. I was just going to talk about kingdom order, and he said, you really need to talk about time. Yay, Steve. God, I love that guy. Okay, so Steve says, I actually think I understand it for once. Yay. Awesome. I love you and your wife. Thank you guys for being a part of this. You've been really encouraging to me. So anyway, time. Time has been something that has been really, well, God started taking me through what I would say now. I never said this to the church because it seemed so crazy. You guys have already seen I'm a little bit in the crazy side, so welcome to the crazy. It's cool, crazy for the Lord. But everything I do, in fact, I was talking to my husband tonight about some stuff, and he's like, that just sounds sci-fi. I'm like, well, that's pretty much my life, okay? So all the things that seem sci-fi now, I just am like, oh yeah, no big deal. So anyway, time is kind of like that for me. God has started doing stuff with me before I even understood what was happening, because I wasn't intentionally engaging the heavenly realms. I didn't really know that was a thing. And he kept doing all these weird experiences with me over the years, and I didn't understand it fully, but I just trusted him. One of the things is that he would do, he would take me to different times, and he would take me, in my mind, I called it time travel. Out loud, I called it a vision, okay? Because the church is a lot better about receiving a vision about something than actually being there. But anyway, here's the truth. I was actually there. And so I was in two places at once, so I was still here. It was not one of those, I didn't go through a time portal, even though now I understand they actually do exist. All right, just putting that out there. But anyway, I did not do that. I just was taken to a different time and experienced things there. And so this thing happened to me a few times before I understood it. First time I had somebody talk about engaging the timeline and going to different places in time, basically time traveling, I'm like, oh, this isn't just me. And it was like this big old freedom, thing that was a big deal to me because I felt like I couldn't say any of that out loud. And so anyway, now I talk about it all the time because I think governing time is a big deal. Because here's the truth. If you don't govern time, time will govern you. And you all have probably figured this out. I know this has been a big part of my life. There have been times when I am ruled by time. Now, if you're from a different country, there are lots of you from different countries on here. You may not experience this the same way that I do because in the United States, for some reason, everything is real particular about time. I grew up like this, didn't know there was another way until I started doing missions, and I'm like, what's up with this? It said it was going to start at 6 and it's like 7:30 and everybody's just staying around still. And so here, it's like, and it starts at 7:15, and that means it starts at 7:15. You have a doctor's appointment for 7:10 and it starts at 7:10. So anyway, that's how things are here, which also it's good and bad, okay? It's nice because for me, I know exactly when something's going to happen. On the other hand, it's bad because sometimes you get completely stressed out because of time governing you. And so what has happened to me a lot is I'm trying real hard to get my kids together to get somewhere on time. And I'm like, come on, we're going to be late. Get in the car right now. Get buckled now, and this is me, somewhat of a stressful mom at times, okay? Being honest, little ones does that to me. And so I would be governed by time. Finally, after I started governing time myself, so did my family, and my kids are quick to remind me, no, Mom, we're not going to be late, remember? And so then I go, yes, you're right. And so anyway, what I've learned is that time is a substance. It is not what we have always thought it was. It's not just something, and if you think about it, could time truly exist if we are measuring time by these circles around the sun and all of these things? Could time really exist like that outside of Earth? Okay, it's not the same, right? A lot of people say time doesn't exist, it's just something that's made up. That's not true either. Actually, time does exist in the heavenly places. It's just a substance. It's different. It's on a timeline. And so it's something that can be squished together and stretched out. And it's something that you can access different points on the timeline. And it's different than how we look at it here. God is outside of time, but so are we. In the heavenly places, we are outside of time as well. We can look and access different points on the timeline. We can go over here and do something here that affects us here. Same, I mean, it's just like that all the time. We have to be aware of that and know that with God's guidance, we can go and change things or access different things on the timeline. Have you ever had something that you totally regretted in your life and you're like, if I could just go back and change that, right? Okay, all of us have had that, pretty sure. I mean, if you haven't, you're amazing, but I have. Everyone I know has. You can go back to that time and you can change it. You can even just go back and observe it in a different way. So you can go back and observe something that happened and say, God, can you just show me where you were in that time? And it's amazing what happens. Healing happens when you do this. He shows you exactly what's happening. I had this time, note, here's a little bit of vulnerability, okay? I had this time where it was one of the hardest times for me sin-wise, okay? Because my kids, my daughters, I'm gonna cry, I'm sorry. My daughters were fighting real bad. And I was just getting so mad. And they were fighting and fighting. And I just stopped. I screamed stuff at them that I wish I never would have said. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I regretted it and I apologized and I was crying. And since then, I was just really, I was so hurt for what I did to them because nobody should hear that. And I said stuff that I knew I was like speaking death into their life. You know what I mean? Like when you're speaking death over somebody, calling them things that they aren't, it's terrible. That's not something a Christian should do. Yet people like me do it every day. I don't do it every day, but I've done it, obviously. So this was really getting to me, and I had repented before the Lord, and it still was just hard. I really felt like, what am I doing to their future, And I thought, I just can't undo that. And one time someone took me through something. It was during this prayer thing, and we went, and he said, okay, I want you to think back to a really difficult time. It could be a time of trauma. It could be a time that was really hurtful to you. You did something, whatever it was, just I want you to focus and go back to that time and ask Jesus to show you where he was and what he was doing. So I did. I didn't know what I was doing, but okay, I trusted and I just did that. And I went to that time and he showed me that he was covering my girls' ears. And that simple thing was like life-changing for me because I just thought, he knew, he did, of course he cared. And I'll tell you, my girls don't remember it at all. It's like it didn't happen. And that's something that can be totally, it can change everything. So when you go through something, maybe you are horribly abused or whatever, just ask Jesus to show you, could take you back to that time and show you where he was in it, what was happening. Somebody's sharing their screen. All right. Is there any way that you can please stop sharing your screen? This would be iPad 2, whoever that is. Oh, goodness, y'all. All right. Let me see if I can figure out who that is. Oh, thank you. Don't know who did that, but I appreciate it. All right. So anyway, that's an example of one time. There have been many times that I've done what you would call time miracles, but these are, I didn't know about all this for a while, and I was at this, we had this little ecclesia here in Wichita that I was meeting with, and we were engaging. And it was when I first started really engaging with groups in heaven, and they started talking. Okay, there was a time when God told me to quit listening to anybody else. Okay, so when I first started engaging in heaven, I was like consuming everybody I could find who was teaching on this stuff. Maybe some of you understand that, but anyway, and God said, stop doing that. You can't listen to anybody else. I want to teach you. And so I was like, okay, whatever you say. And it was awesome. He started really doing stuff with me that I wouldn't have even focused on probably. So it was right. And I didn't know at that time I had an idol of man. So many of you, we've come from the Moses generation. We've grown up in these churches that have, pastors or apostles, and we just go and sit under them and hope to get a morsel, and you know how it is. And so I didn't realize I was so focused on who's my mentor and who can teach me. And anyway, when I first started receiving stuff new, I just kept consuming it. So God had cut me off from listening to anybody. Since then, by the way, he has released me to listen to people again. But instead of listening to them for my spiritual food, I'm just encouraged by what they say, or maybe they spur a new idea, or I feel like I have fellowship or something. But anyway, I was in this time where I couldn't listen to anybody. And so these people were talking about time miracles and stuff, and rich time and poor time, because they were listening to Justin Abraham. I don't know if you know who that is, but I love him. I love listening to him. So anyway, but I hadn't listened to him at that time because God told me don't listen to anybody, right? So I'm like, whatever they're saying, I don't know. And so I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And so they started telling me, well, here's what, you can access different times. You can go and have time miracles where you can get to a point sooner than it would take, or whatever. They were talking about these things. And then they were just joking around and saying, okay, this week we'll all just practice time miracles. And they're like, ha, 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 ha. And I take these things as a challenge. And so I'm like, I'm doing that. And so we go, and that week, I have no idea what I'm doing. And finally I was at my dad's, and I had to get to Whole Foods because we get our water from Whole Foods, this high alkaline water. And so I had to fill up my giant jugs, these 5-gallon jugs of water at Whole Foods, and it was $8.55. And Whole Foods closes at 9. My dad lives across town from Whole Foods. So we're leaving. I'm like, crap, I'm not going to make it to Whole Foods. And, oh, Joy's laughing at me because I said crap. I'm sorry. If that offends anyone, please just note, I speak with my own vernacular. I don't believe it's sinful. So if you do, I really apologize. No offense. So anyway, so I was like, I need to get to Whole Foods and it's closing. I missed the boat, and and then I'm like, wait a second, there's that time miracle thing. I'm going to try this out. And so I was like, all right, Jesus, I have no idea what I'm doing. Can you just help me do this time miracle? So he took me to the timeline. I saw this timeline, and he said, okay, now just stretch it out. And I'm like, okay. So I was just like, I'm like, all right. And so he said, all right, now go. And so here I'm driving down the road. I'm like, I am not speeding. I am not going to manipulate this thing. And I also was tempted to look at the time, and I'm like, I am doing this by faith. I know myself, and I also know how things work in the heavenlies. Faith is the currency. And so if you have no faith, it won't happen. So I was like, not going to worry about the time. I'm going to trust God at the time. And so I'm like trying to shield my eyes from the time thing on the dash. And I'm driving down the road, and I get to Whole Foods, and I have 3 minutes left in Whole Foods. It was like a 2-minute trip that should have taken 20 minutes. And so I don't know how it happened, but it was awesome. And I got my water. It was great. So anyway, since then, I've, of course, done it more than once, practiced it, talked about it, had everyone around me practicing it. And so now we always do these things. And it's something that we know, hey, if we need more time, we're going to do this. If we need time to be shorter, we're going to do this. This is how it works. And so everybody has done it in different ways. It may or may not be what works for you. There was a time when I was listening to Grant Mahoney. Anybody know who that is? A little bit? Okay, some people know who Grant is. One of the first things I listened to of his, he was talking about this time miracle that he did, basically. I call it a time miracle. But it was where he talks about how he goes through a gate of the future. A future gate is what he calls it. Okay, so I don't do that. That's not how God works with me, but it is how it works with him. So anyway, he was talking about this where he needed to sell this car, and he needed to do it super fast. And so what he did is he went onto the timeline, accessed this point in time, and saw himself sitting down at his computer, doing up this post, putting the exact amount that he needed, and then it's selling, okay? So he did that. Then after doing that, he went to his computer and did the same thing that he did in the future, and it sold immediately, full price, exactly like it happened. And so anyway, he's talking about this, and I'm like, sweet. And then that week, I had an opportunity to do the same thing. So I don't know if I've told you guys this story about how, have you heard me talking about the more than enough story? Yeah, no? Yes, some people, I don't know, maybe not. Well, anyway, I'll tell it here again. If you've heard it, please forgive me. But anyway, here's what happened to me. I was struggling with a poverty mindset, real bad, okay? And I was constantly, with everything, always thinking, I'm not gonna have enough. Everything I did, I was thinking this. So I'm like, we're not gonna have enough food, we're not gonna have, and so for me, I have this stuff that I take that's called Zeal. It's like gold to me, okay? Liquid gold. I can't explain it to you if you haven't taken it, but if you've taken it, you understand. So anyway, this stuff is important to me, and it helps my body function right. And I've lived in really ridiculous amounts of pain that I cannot function right without Zeal. Now, I can always function in the heavenlies, don't get me wrong, but God provided this to me. And so I'm taking Zeal, and I got to where I was getting really low on Zeal. And I'm like, crap, I'm not going to have enough. I've got to, I'll cut it down in half, and I'll like only take half as much. And this is what I'm doing to try to make it last longer, because I have in my head, I'm not going to have enough. And I went to this, this mini Zeal conference. It was like a day thing here in Wichita, and they were dealing with mindsets. And so what we were doing is we were trying to identify our bad mindsets, and then trade them in for godly mindsets. So everyone has a different thing they're dealing with. For me, God showed me it was this, I'm not going to have enough mindset. And so what we were supposed to do is go and step over the line to turn in this mindset for a new mindset. So I did that, and God told me to turn in for more than enough. So anyway, now you guys know me. I couldn't just do that. I went to the courts too. So I sat back in my chair, and I'm like, real quick, I'm going to the courts. I'm going to repent of that mindset, cut off that agreement with the poverty mindset, and I'm going to trade it in for more than enough. So that's what I did. And so then we were doing these raffles, and this raffle, it was something that supported, just the room being rented sort of thing. But if you buy a raffle, then we had these products that people were giving away. And of course, because it's a Zeal thing, it was a Zeal thing. And so anyway, I'm like, hey, I really need that Zurvita transformation system. It has like the protein and the Zeal and all the stuff in it. And I was like, I could really use to win that. And God just said, access the timeline. So I'm like, okay. And so I just went and I imagined myself in the future. And I saw that they called our number and that Soren, he was with me, my son, went up to receive the Zurvita transformation system. And so I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Cool, thanks. And so basically I'm seeing this, and then right after that, they were doing the raffle. So they did the raffle and they were raffling off lots of different things. And I had gotten a lot of tickets that day because I was trying to help my friend who was the one who rented the room. So basically I'm like, all right, I'll get more than normal so she'll make sure and make up the amount of money. And so anyway, I got a lot of raffle tickets. The first thing they were raffling off was a little single bottle of Seal. And so I'm like, all right, cool. Well, they call my number and I'm like, yay, well, that's good at least. And so I go up and I get this bottle. Actually, Soren does. He goes up and gets the bottle. And then we come back and they're doing another 2 bottles and they call my number again. And so this is different numbers, right? But it's still my number. And so he goes up and gets that too. And then the next thing they're doing is this magazine. And they call my number again. And he goes up and gets this. And then I'm like, God, I really don't need this next magazine, okay? I don't care about these magazines. And they did not call my number on that one. The last one was the big transformation system. And I was like, well, here's the test. Let's see if this really happens. They called my number on the Zurvita transformation system. And Soren went up, and God at that moment said to me, I told you, more than enough. And I was like, oh, yes, like he's trying to prove to me, like he's proving to me more than enough, because I'm thinking, I don't need that, And he's saying more than enough. And so anyway, it was a huge blessing to me. I'm sure everybody thought it was rigged and that I did something, but it was really not rigged. And it was something that very much encouraged me in my walk and helped me know, yes, I can do this. And yes, he wants to provide for me and everything. I now have more than enough. And so Steve says, lottery numbers, here I come. Okay, I'm not trying to encourage all of that. I'm just saying sometimes God uses the weird things to just kiss us, to just love us. And I could tell 1,000 time stories, you guys. I mean, you guys have probably, some of you have been on several times, so you've probably heard a lot from me. But anyway, it's just, if you engage the timeline, you can start governing time yourself, and you don't have to let it govern you. And there are things, it's not just about getting things like that, okay? It's about everything. It's about everything you do. It's about, what am I going to do? I'm going to miss my plane. No, you don't have to miss your plane, okay? Like there are things that we just need to not be worried about because we're walking in the fullness. And he wants us to be able to access these things and to do the things that he does. And when he does them, he wants us to do them. And so just like Jesus said, I only do what I see my Father doing. I'm not going to go and access the timeline for a Lamborghini because I don't see God doing it, I mean, I don't. Now, if y'all do, go do it, all right? I'm not going to say no to that. But I know for me, he shows me what he wants me to do. So there's never a time that I go, this is my will, so I'm just going to do that. That would be witchcraft, okay? So I do it with the Lord every time, saying, God, what do you want me to do? How do I do that? I don't even know what I'm doing. When someone said, do a time miracle, I didn't know what I was doing. And people say, well, how do you know? I don't know. Jesus showed me. That's it. So do that. Like just say, I don't know what I'm doing. What do I do? The only reason we're having these classes is so there's some sort of, maybe that's something I should pursue. And if that rises in your spirit, like, yes, I'm going to do that, then just say, Jesus, teach me. Just teach me. Show me what to do. And he might take you a totally different way. Just like I don't go through this future gate that Grant does. It still opened my mind to this possibility of something that could happen. And so even though it wasn't the same and Jesus wanted to take me a different way, it doesn't mean that it's wrong or that what he's doing is wrong. It's different. And so we're all different. We'll all do things differently. And so anyway, just putting that out there. Oh, look, Betty said, my dad used to tell me this about time miracles. I like your dad. I don't even know him, but I like him. And so this is good. I hope you guys know, like, this has been happening forever. Okay, this is not a new thing. It's not. You guys have seen people pop up in different generations, right? You guys saw what happened on the transformation, on the Mount of Transfiguration, right? You guys saw that these people from different times came and they were there. This is a thing. This is not something that is unusual. It shouldn't be to us, but it has been, because we have been walking in the flesh for too long. And we have forgotten about these things. We have said, oh, that's just something I could never attain. Jesus said, you'll do all that I do and even more. So if we truly believe that, then we should be doing these things. Now, it might look different than anything that's happened before, but it will be something that is clearly of God. And so, anyway, all right, that's it for time, I think. Do you guys have any questions and stuff for... Actually, this should be a time of questions for anything concerning engaging heaven. Since this is the last session, if you have anything that's been on your heart or on your mind and you're like, what about this? Please ask that question today, because this will be our last gathering. So, Aaron Michael, has there been anything that I missed? I haven't really been looking very much. Nope.
No, Steve was saying that, am I unmuted? Yeah, he was saying it seems relational the different ways, and I was just saying, yeah. And then Sonia just now said, how do you access the timeline?
Okay, well, just like for me, I didn't know what I was doing, and so I just said, Jesus, what do I do? And he showed me. I didn't travel. I was just, it's like all of a sudden I'm focusing and I see this timeline. And I can't explain it in a way except for it was like at a diagonal, and there were these different points, and I could take and stretch or squish together these things. And so for me, I just asked him to take me like I do anywhere. This is what I do everywhere in the heavenly. So if I don't know about something, I say, hey, Jesus, will you take me here? And so he does, and I just appear. I don't usually travel unless I'm like traveling in the spirit here in the earth. And so that's the way to access it. I mean, I don't know. I assume that it's like most things, that not everyone can do it until you have that relationship with the Lord and authority that comes from that. And so when you have that authority, I'm sure he'll take you. And I don't know when that is. So only you will know by your relationship with the Lord. Yeah. That's not very helpful. I know, like I don't have a formula. Most things I don't have a formula for. This is why you hear from me all the time. Just go ask Jesus. It's because I don't know. Like I really don't know most things. I just know if I ask him, he helps me. And so he doesn't usually talk to me and tell me these things. He just shows me. That's what he does with me personally. So anyway, how about anything? I think there was another I missed.
Corinne was asking if anyone has been engaging in two realms at the same time. I said yes, but I don't know if she was wanting greater detail or about that.
Yeah,
and then
I've done that a lot. So that's actually pretty much all the time. There are lots of, first of all, I don't know what you're talking about realms, but we have so many different realms of heaven, realms of the earth, all of that. And any of us, if we are engaging in heaven, are generally engaging two realms at once, even if we're only in one realm of heaven. If we're only engaging one realm of heaven, we're still engaging here because we're typing stuff, right? Or whatever. And we're engaging usually in the spirit realm of the earth, the kingdom of the earth, because I mean, I don't know if y'all are doing this, but I feel the presence. I see angels and all of these things, the seven spirits and all that. So I'm engaging now at the same time. There have been times when I'm declaring something over my mountains, and at the same time I am seeing that I am in this high court doing a different thing in a different realm. And so it can all happen simultaneously. We are multidimensional beings. And so I used to think, oh, we're three-dimensional. We're way more than three-dimensional, y'all. This is like, we have all these realms that we're always engaging in, and we're doing it simultaneously, whether we are mindful of it or not. And so there are times when we're governing stuff in the kingdom of God, don't even know it. I mean, how many times I've been to my mountain and gone, how does this look good, look so good? Because I have not been mindfully doing this, and that is something that my spirit is at work, even though I don't understand it. And so anyway, that happens all the time. Yes, so Corinne says, like in the river of life and worshiping in a separate place with angels. Exactly. Just like that, you can do that. You can be mindful of doing that. You can be mindful of having all of these things at the same time. Or, I mean, and this is something I haven't told a lot of people. I'm going to tell you guys because it's strange, but in different realms, you look different. Okay, so you won't always look like white girl with the hair pulled back. Okay, you won't always look like this in different realms. In fact, there's one realm where I look like an old man. It was so strange when I first saw myself like that. I was like, what? And okay. And then another, I see myself as like this warrior princess sort of thing. So I mean, it didn't make sense in my head when I first started engaging like that. But God started showing me that we're all like this in the spirit. We're all different in different realms. It's like how our heavenly bodies or whatever don't look the same as we do here. You might see yourself with long flowing blue hair, and here you don't even have hair. It may be completely different in different realms, and that is fine. That's how it's supposed to be. So anyway, what else have I missed here, Michael?
And so then Steve said, Christine, last week you mentioned traveling in the spirit with others to do work. Do you do it together like we do this class? How is that worked out?
Okay, well, first of all, I do that myself when I'm just by myself in worship or whatever. There have been many times that God has taken me to other places in the earth to do things. And so at that time, I'm translating. When I say translating, I mean traveling only in the spirit and not in the body. Because there are times that our transrelocation would be when you are traveling in the body to a different place, okay? So there are times when I don't even know which one I'm doing, okay? It's very strange. But then most of the time, I would say I'm just translating, and so I'm just going in the spirit. When we do it together, I have a few people, I've done it together with many people before, but I do have this specific group that we are mandated to do this. And so there are 3 of us, we do it together. It's about every couple of weeks that Jesus is calling us to go to a different country and do these different things. And we usually don't know exactly what we're doing until we're doing it. And only Jesus takes us. When we do it, we meet on Zoom like this, because actually those other 2 ladies I've never met in the flesh physically, but we're very connected in the spirit. One lives in Oregon, one lives in Colorado Springs. And we travel in the spirit together. So we just go, okay, whatever you want for us. And we start praying in the spirit. And Jesus usually wraps us up and takes us. Now, we have found that each one of us have kind of a different role. And so like for me, a lot of the time am dealing with angels and demons and or doing stuff from the heavenlies or releasing these books to people, that sort of thing. And other people have other jobs. So it's all different. Sometimes we literally interact with the people and are talking with them and hugging them and that sort of thing. Other times, I am sure they don't even know we're there and we're just doing stuff in the spirit. There have been times that we don't interact with anybody at all, and we just are doing stuff under the earth and releasing his glory under the earth to things that are happening under there. And so anyway, there's a lot that can happen, but always Jesus takes us. And this is not something, I've heard of other people who do this sort of thing through witchcraft. Not cool. And if you're trying to go and travel in the spirit alone, I would not recommend that. Everything you do, I would recommend doing with Jesus. Only do it when he's like leading you to do it. Don't just decide, well, I'm going to go to France today. So Jesus, come on and take me. Just only do what he's saying. You need to go and do this. That's what I would do. So that's kind of how it works. Every single time it's different. So it's not like every time we go and it's just like this, but it's been really encouraging. I got to tell you, there was a lady in one of my classes who I didn't know this, but she lives only like 3 hours away from me. So I didn't know she lived that close. She knew because she'd been looking. But for me, I didn't know. And so one day, it was right before, all of a sudden I'm having a brain fart. So the Passover meal. Why can't I think of the word? Anyway, so it was right before that celebration and the Passover Seder. Goodness. Okay. Anyway, it was right before that. And it was like 2 days before. And she contacted me and said, hey, Christine, I have a couple extra tickets to the Seder meal at my church. And God told me that I need to offer these tickets to you. And I was like, wow, that's really generous. But how am I going to get there in 2 days? I'm thinking she's probably across the country or across the world. And so anyway, she said, yeah, I'm only 3 hours away. I'm like, oh, really? And so anyway, looked it up, asked the Lord about it. He said, yes, you need to go. So I went down to her church with her. She's like the best. I love her so much. Anyway, we've now become really close, but I took my son Soren with me. We went down. He'd never experienced a Seder before, and I've been waiting until he was old enough. And all my kids, my younger ones, are probably not ready exactly for that. But anyway, they'd go, but they wouldn't really get it, And so anyway, he was learning a lot by doing this, and it was really exciting. But we went, we did this, and it was with this church called House of David. Maybe you guys know about them, but Kurt Landry, don't know if you've heard of him, but he's the one who's there, and the pastor, or whatever you call him, I don't know, rabbi. And so anyway, so we were there, and he was showing different parts of the ministries that they're involved with that they have at their church, all these different videos. And I didn't realize, when I was going to this thing, I thought it'd be like a small Seder that I've been to before of like maybe 50 people. There were thousands of people at this thing. It was huge. And so how they pulled this off was just miraculous in itself. But anyway, so he's showing this video of the different ministries they do. And they do all this stuff with Israel. And so he was showing when they're in Israel, they have this ministry that is inside these bunkers that it's to these Holocaust survivors, these really old people who are all these Jewish Holocaust survivors that are there. And first of all, the coolest thing about this is that one of the first, I don't know, maybe the third trip that we were doing in the spirit travel stuff, Jesus took us to Israel, to these bunkers with these Holocaust survivors. I didn't even know there were Holocaust survivors still, okay? I don't know, I thought they were too old. But anyway, so all of this was by faith. He's showing us we're interacting with these people. We're dancing with them. We're talking with them. We're eating with them. This is one of those times that I'm like, am I in the spirit or am I in the natural? I don't know. And so anyway, it was amazing. Really super powerful experience. So then this is probably 6 months later or a year later or something, I don't know. I was at saw this video. It looked exactly the same. It was like, what? This is real. Okay, now everyone should know, I think these things are real when I'm doing it, but when you see it in the flesh, it's just like, wow. And so that was like, God had to have me there to see this. This was a big deal. And so I'm calling up my friend Colleen going, you wouldn't believe this. This is what happened. Because, we both did it together. And so anyway, it was really powerful. And so I love these kind of confirmations because I need them. Like, maybe not everybody else needs them, but I need them. And when I get these sort of things, it just so encourages me. And I go, wow, this is something that's really, it's so good to be a part of what God is doing. When he's doing these things and you're going, wow, I can go and do ministry in Israel when I've never been to Israel. I happen to know Hebrew from college, which why I don't know, but I do. And so, there are things like that that are so encouraging when you experience these things. And so anyway, random, you probably didn't need all that, but that's kind of how it works with spiritual. So anyway, all right, Aaron Michael, you go again.
We had another question from Steve, and he said, can you see other people's mountains? And what did he say? Can you see other people's mountains and do things on them? And I said, yes, if you have been given the authority. And I said, but I want to make sure you get like the full answer you're looking for.
Yeah, for sure. I do that a lot, but you do have to have permission from people. And so I didn't really know this at first, that you could even go to other people's mountains. And so I didn't. And then one time I tried to go to somebody's mountain, and I was shown that I had to have permission. And so I went and said, hey, I know you wanted me to pray over you. Do I have permission to go to your mountain? She said, well, of course, sure. And so I said, okay. So then I went and I could do it. And so when I do that, I do this a lot with people who are I can always go to people's mountains who are in my authority. So like, for instance, like Joy, okay? I could go to her mountain, her business mountain, because she's in my business too. And so I am her leader in that. So because I'm all the time going over all of the people on my team, and I'm releasing stuff over them. I'm making sure the enemy's not attacking, okay, I can't say all the time. I wish I was doing it all the time, but I'm not doing as much as I should. But I still do this with everybody who's on my team, because I do have authority to do that. Now, can I go over, I don't know what she has, but say she has an education mountain or something. I probably can't go and do anything with her education mountain, because I have no sort of authority there, unless she tells me or asks me to. But yeah, you can. I go over people who are struggling a lot. Like if someone is struggling with, oh, I can't figure out, but my eye is hurting so bad. Well, I'll say, okay, can I minister over you? Can I go over your mountain? And I will go over them, and I'll look over them and see if Jesus shows me anything. Sometimes he'll show me the enemy's attacking. I might see the enemy coming onto their mountain, or I might see Jesus, giving me oil to pour on them, or whatever. It could be whatever it might be. So that for me is how I know what's happening with people. So I don't like when people come to me and ask for a prophetic word. It kind of bothers me, because I feel like if God wants me to share something, then he'll show me what to share. But at times he says, okay, go look over them. And that's what he shows me. He shows me what's happening in their life. And so people are like, wow, you're so accurate. Well, it's not me. It's just because I'm seeing into their life with, on their mountain. And so anyway, that's how it works with me doing that. So, okay, what else, Aaron Michael?
So Steve had a follow-up question, but then Chris also had a question. Steve's follow-up question on the same one was, can you read someone else's scroll? And then come back and I'll give you Chris's question.
Okay, so I have only had one experience where I've seen anything on someone else's scroll. And I don't know if it's my personal gifts that I can't, or if it's something that you just don't do normally with other people. So I've had a lot of people want me to see on their scroll, and it has hardly ever worked, if you know what I mean. So I'll go and I'll be shown nothing. But I also don't see a lot on my own scrolls. Sometimes I do see words and stuff, but a lot of times if you don't see what's on a scroll that you receive, but you receive a scroll, you should eat it. And the reason is because when you eat stuff in the heavenly realms, it becomes a part of you. And so a lot of times I might receive a scroll, have no idea what it says, and Jesus just said, okay, just eat it. And so I'll just eat it, and I trust that whatever he wants will come to pass in me, because it's not part of me. And so that's my experience, but I don't know if that's just me, if other people can see better those things. I really don't know for sure. So, okay, what else, Aaron Michael? Oh,
sorry?
You're good. Sorry, you were muted.
Okay. So Chris's question was, do you know what a mount with a lot of windows means?
I have no idea. I would say ask the Lord what you're supposed to do with the windows. If you're supposed to open them, if you're supposed to go through them, if you're supposed to keep them closed so nothing comes in. I don't know. Just ask. That's what I do. Yeah. What else, Sarah Michael?
That is all so far.
Okay. Yeah, see, I like what you said, Erin Michael. That's pretty much exactly, yeah. You never know. God, there's so many things. I've seen the same things mean different things to different people. And so a lot of people who say, oh no, yellow always means this, I beg to differ. I would say, no, it does not always mean that. It can mean different things for different people. So I would seek Jesus every time on what does this mean? If you see something or receive something or whatever, I always ask questions now. At first, it's like I couldn't even remember to ask the questions. And I was just like, whoa, everything was like this whole new experience that I was just like observing everything. And then finally, I remember I had this really weird experience and I was like, wow. And I thought, nope, can't tell anybody about that one. And then, and then finally, it just kept bugging me, like, what does this mean? And finally, I talked to a friend of mine who engages in heaven, and I said, okay, Amy, what does this mean? And she goes, I have no idea. Did you ask Jesus? And I'm like, no. and she said, well, why don't you go back to that time and ask Jesus? And I'm like, how do I go back to that time? And she's like, just ask him to take you back there. I'm like, oh. Like, these are so simple, but I'm like not thinking like this at the time. And so I'm like, okay. So I was like, hey, Jesus, can you take me back to this experience? So I did, and he did. And I said, okay, what does this mean? And he just started pouring out all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, there's so much that meant. And I didn't know that. Like, there's a lot sometimes that he's trying to show us, but we have to do our part to inquire. We have to do our part to be a participant, And so anyway.
And also realizing, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and also definitely realizing that for different people, sometimes stuff is different. Sometimes stuff is, similar or the same, but sometimes stuff's completely different. Sometimes he, like, for example, will tell me to eat stuff, but then other times he just tells me to press it into myself, and sometimes just most things are similar in a way, but at the same time, completely different, because he has a different relationship with all of us. And like when you were talking about engaging in the different places at different times, when I first realized that was a thing, I was driving. I was told do not engage heaven while you're driving or you will die. Like, don't do it, like this whole horrible thing.
Wow.
And then one day I was driving, and next thing you know, bam, I was in the heavenly realms and driving fully at the same time, and so yeah, all the things. He does everything. All of it.
That's good. I don't know who told you not to do that, but yeah, you should be engaging while you're driving. That's pretty important. I think it's, I think it's hard for some people. I have a friend who calls it dueling, that you're like in dual realms at the same time.
Right.
But for some people it's hard. For me, I started years ago. I read this book by Brother Lawrence called The Practice of the Presence of God. And it's about really always being in the presence. And so for years I've been doing that. And to me, that was something that became who I was. And at first it was hard, but it just becomes who you are. And when you do that, then you can be doing the dishes and engaging at the same time. You can be looking out the window and paying attention to your kids and also seeing the angels. And, it's just, we have to learn to engage both realms, because if we don't, we have to lock ourselves in the closet in the dark, you have the special music. And, at first, if you need to do that, do it, but don't live there. Like, continue to move forward and try to do other things at the same time so we can actually be functioning humans. So that would be ideal, I think.
Totally. And scripture says that we are seated in heavenly places. like plural. Like it doesn't say in this one heavenly place sometimes if you want to go.
Yes.
And that is also why when we go places, sometimes we see that things have been taken care of, or we're actually like watching ourselves operating in a way, and we're like, whoa, how did I know how to do that? And it's like, because you've been doing it. Like our spirits have been there, have been doing these things. And for me, when that happened on that same drive, my like awareness opened up to multiple different heavenly realms where I was already like actively doing things. The first time it opened up, I was worshiping in the throne room, and it was like it opened up and I was already doing it. It wasn't like I stepped, like the door opened and I walked in and started doing it. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm here. This is happening. And then it kept opening up to several different places that I was like very intentionally aware of being there and driving and doing everything else that I was doing, you know, that day. But so there are a few more questions that came in. So Dana said, is the time travel, oh, it just moved. Is the time travel the same feeling as deja vu? And then there are a few more questions.
Okay, as for me, no, it's not the same. I have other people I know who have revelation about deja vu and stuff and how it does have to do with accessing the timeline. I personally have not received any of that revelation, so I don't know about that. But what I do know for me is that it is a lot more intentional. So when people talk about deja vu, usually for me, what I think of is it's like, oh, I feel like I've seen this before, right? But it's not something that I intentionally do by any means. And it's not something I have any understanding about when I have deja vu. So I suppose if you have that feeling, you could engage at that time and see, is this something that I'm coming into contact with another, version of myself, if that makes sense, or what? I don't know. I mean, you can really ask the Lord. Again, I say it too much, but just ask Jesus. I don't know. I see.
And then,
okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, someone asked, can we go back in time to get what the enemy has stolen?
Yes. Okay. So I personally don't go back in time to do it. You can do that, but what I do is a couple things. First of all, a lot of times I do it in the courts. So in the courts, I'm always asking for what the Lord, for the Lord to release back to me anything that the enemy has stolen or that's been lost to the enemy. But also, I've been taken to Satan's trophy room a lot. And so this is something I would never go to Satan's trophy room just because you decide to. More than anything I've ever said before, don't do that. Okay? And the reason is this is literally Satan's domain. And so when you go, you have to go with Jesus for sure, because he's the one who is leading and protecting you. But what happens is he has this trophy room where he basically has a collection of all sorts of weird crap. And so this is, I have gone and gotten things that it did not make sense to me. He just told me to do it. I got to tell you, this one time, I was told to go in here, and when I went in, I was supposed to retrieve, and it was this child. Okay, so that didn't make sense to me, but I was obedient. Yes, okay. So I had this child, and I was supposed to give it back to this person who was in the same room as me. And she wasn't someone I knew well, so that made me even more uncomfortable. But I brought this child to this person, released it to her in the spirit, and then I was supposed to tell her about it. So I'm like, hey, Angie, I know this doesn't make any sense, but this is what happened. And I said, I don't think she ever lost a child. I didn't think she had any miscarriages. I didn't know what this was about. Even that way, it didn't make sense anyway, because I kind of believed that, before that they'd already be in heaven. So anyway, I was totally confused, and I gave it to her. She's like, okay, I don't know what this means. And I felt like a complete fool. All right. But then a day later, she contacts me and said, the Lord revealed all this to me, that my childhood was stolen from me. And returning that back was part of my childhood being returned back to me. And anyway, it was a very powerful experience for her. for me, I was just like, this doesn't make sense. I'm a complete lunatic, and God used it for her benefit to bring something beautiful out of it. And so it could be something as simple as that, or it could be something that's like money or whatever. I mean, it could be anything that the enemy has stolen. He steals all sorts of stuff. Not only that, but we give it to him half the time. We'll just willingly give our junk or our precious things to the enemy through different things. Thank you, Neva. Anyway, hey, baby, go out. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anyway, sorry, my little one's bringing me and delivering me my phone for some reason. So 9 messages. That would be why. I'm not going to look at them. All right. Anyway, that's something that I do that. So I go and access Satan's trophy room a lot. I don't know if you have to have certain authority or anything for that. You just have to seek the Lord on it. Go when he says to go. But other than that, I go to the courts to do that. He may lead you back in time to do that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, Aaron Michael, there's been more, I think.
Yeah, so Steve was asking how long you had been engaging. He said, how long have you been experiencing things like this, and when did you really start to engage?
Okay, well, it's kind of complicated, not so complicated depending on how you look at it. But I didn't know I was engaging in heaven for all of my Christian walk. But when I was really young, not really young, I didn't grow up in the church like everybody else, but I did become a Christian when I was I was like old junior high, young high school, okay? And when I did, I started seeking intimacy with the Lord after a couple of years. I had someone who very briefly mentored me and showed me that you could have a relationship with God. So at that point, I dove in unlike most people. And I didn't know it was unlike most people because I didn't grow up in the church. But I just started diving into relationship with him as my husband. And so Jesus became my husband early on. And I know we're all the bride of Christ, but for me, I dedicated my life to him. I knew I was not going to date until I was ready to get married. And so I was only dating Jesus. And so it may sound a little strange, but I just dove into intimacy with him, and I was worshiping all the time. I just wanted him, more of him all the time. And I started having these experiences that nobody taught me about, good and bad. Okay. So I had a whole lot of demonic attack, way more than anyone I've ever met. No one taught me about that stuff. No one taught me about spiritual warfare. No one taught me about any of that. But I experienced it. And I went through this, and I was just very new to the Bible. I was very new to prayer. All I knew is when I would worship, I would have these really powerful experiences with the Lord. And so he would share stuff with me that I was supposed to tell people. Now I know it was prophecy, but I didn't know that, or it was a word of knowledge sometimes, whatever. But this was stuff that he would share, and I didn't know. He would say, go touch that person on the back of their neck, and they would get healed. And so I started doing these things. Those are pretty normal supernatural things for the church these days. But what wasn't so normal was I would have these experiences where I would be on the dance floor with Jesus, and then I would have these experiences where God would he would put all this stuff, I shared last week about Metatron's Cube. Sounds really strange. I heard some of you went searching online for this. I guess I forgot to tell you, don't do that. It's a bad choice. You're going to come up with all sorts of new age stuff, okay? I wouldn't go there. But anyway, I will try to find more on that. That is from good Christians. Yeah, Victoria said, yes, I did that. That's what happened to me. So anyway, I had a lot of experiences over the years where he would give me what I thought were, a lot of times I would see stuff like I saw myself at the throne. I didn't know I was engaging in heaven when I was doing it. I thought, oh, I have a wild imagination. This is what I thought. every time and they would be powerful experiences for me, but I just thought I had a wild imagination. And then it's only been like 2.5 years or something since I've been actively engaging in heaven on purpose. And so it's not long. In fact, most people, when they hear that, they're like, wow, then why am I listening to you? And really, I'll tell you the truth. You wouldn't be listening to me, except for God did something with me at that point that is crazy. Well, good crazy, but it was strange nonetheless. I remember I told you I had that really wacky experience I didn't want to tell anybody about. Okay, I've had a lot of those, but this one specifically where I didn't know to ask Jesus about all this stuff. I'll tell you what happened. I was actually on the toilet, and one of the few places that I can go to be by myself. And so I was there, and I was engaged in heaven, and I said, Jesus, just take me wherever you want to take me. And all of a sudden I saw myself, he took me through this field. We were walking through the field. He showed me this ladder that went way up on this cliff. And so he's like, let's climb the ladder. So, okay, so we're climbing the ladder. We climb and climb and climb and climb and climb, get up, and we're standing on top of this atmosphere. Like, it looked like the earth, where we're standing on top of the atmosphere. And we're huge. And I can't explain this, but we're huge. And I see these galaxies are flying by. And I'm like, wow. And he goes, now catch one. And so I catch one. He says, now eat it. And I look at him like he's crazy, and I do what he says. And so I eat the galaxy. And when this happened, my whole body, I just felt this head to toe nourishment in my body. And I was like, wow, that was amazing. And it tasted like the fruit from the Garden of Eden. And at that time, I didn't know how I knew that, because I hadn't mindfully experienced this. And so that's what it tasted like. And I thought I was done. And he's like, now catch another one. So I caught another one. He said, eat it again. And this time I thought he was really like, why? Because in the heavenly places, when you're completely satisfied, there's no need for anything else. So it didn't make sense to me to keep eating, but I just said, okay, so I ate it again. Well, this time I started filling up with light until I exploded with light and everything turned white. And then my engaging time was over. So as you can tell, I was like, what does this mean? This is wild. And that's what I didn't want to tell anybody about until it kept bugging me. And finally, then I went back to that experience, asked Jesus what it was about. And he showed me that he was filling me with all of God's ways. Well, this may sound strange to you. In my mind, I don't understand things. In my spirit, I understand it all. And so it does not make sense, but I can go anywhere in the heavenly places and understand how this works. What's the protocol here? Everything. I know how it all works, and my spirit knows, not my soul. So my soul's still learning, but my spirit, if I let my spirit lead, my soul just observes. And so it doesn't happen to everybody. I'm sure it happens to other people than just me. But this is why God has shown me, he's the one who said, you need to start doing this mentoring group. When he said, do this mentoring group, I said, who the heck cares about getting mentored by me? And then all of a sudden, that week, I had like 7 people ask me to be their mentor. And I'm like, okay, God, I get it. And so I started this mentoring group. Kept happening. Then I had these people online saying, what's this mentoring group you're always talking about? Isn't there a way we can be a part? And God said, okay, now you need to start doing it online too. So I started doing it with Zoom at the same time as doing it in person. That led to all these people inviting their friends, and then a bunch of people not understanding all the basics. And so I'd have to explain the basics all the time. And the mentoring group wasn't getting as strong anymore because God said, start an intro class. And so I said, okay, I'll start an intro class. He said, do it online only. Okay. And then I thought, well, maybe we'll have 10 people come. And so he said, now go put it on the Courtrooms of Heaven Facebook group. You need to help them out. And so I did. I just put it out there. I thought a few people would join. I had 450 people enroll in that first one. And I was like, what? I'm not qualified for this. And God said, I'm qualifying you for this. I'm telling you to do it. And so I said, okay. And I just did. And so by faith, this is what's happened. And it's just been step by step. So I can't say I'm qualified for anything. I'm doing it. I've only been doing it a couple years, but God has said, I'll give you everything you need to do it. And people will grow and then they'll start doing it. And so anyway, that's what's happening. There's my life. Okay, I keep talking way too much. It's already 7:31. Okay, a couple more questions and then we'll get to engaging. Aaron Michaels Wax, are you okay?
I'm good.
Okay.
So someone said, who was it? I can't find it. Sorry, hold on. Oh yeah. Can you fully engage if the enemy has accusations against you? Is what Dana asked.
Well, fully is a hard word. I would say not fully, probably. But I can definitely say not fully. But the enemy almost always has accusations against us. And so even if we aren't able to fully engage, it doesn't mean we're not able to engage. So always you can go into the courts and deal with this stuff. And a lot of people do this, and I think it's wise. I don't know why I don't do it every time. But a lot of people, every time they engage, go first to the courts, deal with their junk, and then they engage more. I would say you would probably have an easier time doing that, because the times that I have done that, I have been given way more access to things. And so I would say that would be a wise thing if you would go and deal with your junk in the court of accusations, and then engage. But that's up to you. Do what you're led to do. You can fully engage if you deal with those accusations. If you don't, oftentimes the enemy has a little hold. Usually it's a foothold on something. So sometimes it's a stronghold. You know how it is if it has deep roots. But it could be that it's blocking your seeing. It could be that you're not fully able to have access to places. I mean, all of that, it depends on the amount of hold the enemy has on you. And so definitely deal with your junk. I think that's why when I first started engaging mindfully, when I first started, I was in the courts a lot. Like I was in the court of accusations probably 5 times a day at least, just constantly dealing with stuff. It's like God would bring up this. Oh yeah, forgot about that. So then I'm back in the courts. Oh, you just did this. Okay, fine, here, I'm doing this. Oh yeah, remember when you were 7? And it was just like always something. I was engaging all the time in the courts about it. And I thought it wouldn't end. I thought that's how life would be, until eventually I got to the place where now I only go on short accounts. So now it's when I totally blow it that I'm going to the courts. Or if somebody has come against me in a way, I know I need to deal with them in the courts. Whatever it might be, that's what I do. Not so much dealing with all my past stuff. A lot of that's been dealt with already. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Okay, I think that's it, right? Let's engage in heaven together. It's already 7:34. Wow. Okay, I hope you guys have had an awesome time of learning and growing. I hope you guys are activated to go do some ministry and keep engaging and seeking God on all sorts of stuff. If you want, I never remember to say this, so let me just say it here. I do have a mentoring group that after you have finished every session from the intro class, you are welcome to join. And so this mentoring group, we meet at 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoons, Central Daylight Time. Okay, so anyway, right now it's 7:35 here. So 2 p.m. would be 5 hours and a half earlier than it is right now, okay, for you, wherever you're at. Anyway, Sundays, that's what we do. And in that group, it is a lot less teaching, more interacting with everybody. So everybody shares more of what they're going through, or how they're engaging, or questions they have, or excitements they have, or struggles they have concerning engaging the heavenly realms. And sometimes I teach on a certain subject if God gives it to me. Most of the time it's just as stuff comes up that I'll kind of lead and teach in that way. We always engage in heaven together. So it's basically like this group with a little less emphasis on the teaching. So anyway, a lot more, I would say a little more intimacy. You get to know people better. But anyway, you're welcome to join that if you'd like. I do ask, if possible, that you contribute $7 a month to the source to help pitch in for technology costs. If you can't do that, you're still welcome. But I just want to put that out there. We try to do that for the mentoring groups. So the same Zoom. Yes, the same Zoom. If you want to be added, I'll post something probably tomorrow or the next day on the intro class, and it'll be for the mentoring group. You can go find it if you want. I think it's like Engaging Heaven Mentoring Group or something like that. But anyway, you can go look for that, and then I'll post a link to it if you want later on. But I just want to put that out there. If you're wanting more, you feel like all of this you've kind of got, you understand it enough that you can kind of start walking in it. You don't have to be perfect by any means. None of us are like that. But yeah, you can come join the mentoring class. So yeah, some of you who've been interacting with me more, you're probably ready for the mentoring class. If you're still like, I don't understand the courts of heaven, you probably need to go through the intro class again, or, I'm just putting that out there. You need to get some of the basics down so that you can have an understanding when you come into the mentoring group. But yeah, we all just walk together. All right, look on Facebook, yes. Like I said, on our intro class Facebook page, I will put the link to that group if you want, but you can just search for it, yeah. Engaging Heaven Mentoring Group, yeah, you'll find that there. Okay, well, let's engage in heaven together, okay? All right, I'm gonna stop my video. Lord, we just want to come and say thank you so much for bringing us together. Thank you for the unity in the body and for growing us in the spirit. We want to walk in your ways, Jesus, and we want to walk in the ways of the Father. So Jesus, please just lead us today and show us where we need to go. Give us new experiences, if you will. Oh, Jesus, by the way, we just want to commit our imagination to you. So if you can take over, that would be lovely. And if there's anything that you guys experience, please just put it in the chat box. I just keep seeing these kind of blocks that are forming in the air, and they're kind of forming steps and then a pathway. And he's showing us that he has a new pathway for us, and we can create it together, and that he has somewhere new to take us, and we just need to trust him. So if you are feeling led, just walk up these stairs and start walking the path. See if there are any blocks or stones that you're supposed to put down. And I just saw on the side, like as we're walking, it's like we're in the air. And then one person just flew off the edge, just like jumped by faith and started flying off the edge in the air. That was pretty cool. I also see right now, I don't know if there's someone in this room. If there is, I just want to give you a kind warning. I just want to say there is someone who is doing some witchcraft and trying to watch what we're doing. If you are in this room, just know that Jesus is in control and much more powerful. So I would be warned that this may be a dangerous place for you. So kindly leave if you're doing that. Otherwise, if anyone is following Jesus as Lord, we welcome anyone to be in here and come with us. Thank you, Lord. Oh, I see some angels. They're going, kind of going to bat for us. So I hope you guys still feel very confident because we are taken care of. Everything that the enemy intends for evil will be turned around for our good and God's glory. Myrna said, I see as I'm walking up the stairs an alligator with 5 red eyes is trying to chase me and attack me. Any idea? First of all, turn around and with authority, with Jesus, just take your sword and go to battle. I feel like I'm telling you this. This is something that the Lord is doing in you, okay? Very simple. I see that this is already taken care of. And then Myrna said 3 of us here are watching. Aaron Michael said he is having me place different sized diamonds throughout the path, some large, some very, very small. Victoria said, I saw myself pick up a diamond. I see lots of white flowers popping up in these different kind of cracks. Victoria said, I just ate the diamond. I see all of us here very united in the spirit, and there's a sweet fragrance that's coming from us. We're protected in this kind of, I don't know how to say, kind of, I call it a Holy Spirit bubble. Aaron Michael said, I see these flowers that look like poppies, but they're white. Victoria said, I didn't know I was supposed to do it. I just saw myself doing it. Aaron Michael said, Amen. Diane said, was it Aaron Michael that flew off the edge? Just sounds like her exuberance. It's cool. I see there's an angel who's riding in the sky above us, like, I don't know, sky, the air above us, writing in these letters made of light, kind of. I don't know if that makes sense. But it's like glowing light that writing a message over us, except for it's really seeming like a blessing or something that is overriding some curse. And so I don't know if there was someone trying to put a curse on us or something, but the angel's already overriding that and putting blessing. So thank you, Lord. Aaron Michael said, woohoo, yes, but I was not the only one. In here, I see this angel is coming and giving us each, all of us, these different scrolls. And it's like a special message to us, not a mandate like normal or anything. It's like a secret message that only we can see inside of this protection. Victoria said, like a seal placed upon our hearts. I was just told, I think it's something that is on the scroll that I can't remember the exact words right now, but it's basically that his love is what demolishes strongholds, and it's the sound of his voice that is our weapon, and his voice is love. And all of this, everything that we have is found in his love, in his voice. And so, as we start to carry his love and his voice, when we release that, it is sending the curses of every enemy that's against us back to the sender. And it's just sending that back to them. And we are demolishing everything through the love of God. Betty said, I saw blue bubbles floating around before you mentioned bubbles. Then I could smell honeysuckle. I think that's probably the smell of like that fragrance of all of the unity. And then Anyanwu said, mysteries unfolded, all is well. And Aaron Michael said, I'm seeing what looks like weeping willow branches, but they're like glowing. They're hanging over a wall, but I feel like we're supposed to walk through it. It doesn't look like we can, but I still feel like we're supposed to. We can do all things. That's so funny. As soon as I got close, I just, in my spirit, I said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, and just walked right through the wall. On the other side of the wall is this beautiful, like, oh, rich land, just full of these flowers. And, you get that feeling of the land of milk and honey, right? It's like that rich abundance. Yeah. Victoria said, I saw a large field of golden wheat, and beyond this were mountains. Aaron Michael said, yep, like huge field. Chris said, Jesus led me upstairs. I was dressed as a bride. He dances with me. He so strongly loves us, is so proud, like showing us off. The wedding is taking place as a beautiful field and forest. Awesome. Aaron Michael said, the grass is really tall and thick and kind of tickles. Chris said, he says, I will never let go of you as he continues to dance with me or us. I hear this massive waterfall, kind of like Niagara Falls kind of waterfall. That sound of many rushing waters, you know. Betty said, yes, Chris, I heard that as well. He will never let go of us. Aaron Michael said, as I'm walking, I'm drinking and being nourished by the grass just by walking through it. I see this giant orb coming down from above us, and it's making kind of a weird sound. I'm hearing much more than I usually do. It's like all my spiritual senses are awakened today. And it's kind of making this boom, boom, boom kind of sound as it's coming down. And it's like I feel like it's a giant kind of, it has a bunch of stuff inside of it that it is going to be released to us. I don't know what exactly it is. Dana said, I felt dew in the grass. Aaron Michael said, I just saw these things that are like stars but diamonds at the same time, and they're falling all around us. And Yanu said, scroll rolls in from two sides with solid gold knobs on it, a bulb on top each side. One bulb is unscrewed, contains a heavenly fluid. The angels tell me to open my mouth, and as I do, they pour in a crystal gold fluid. Victoria said, I saw Jesus working at a table. He was swirling together what looked like many different colors of paint, swirling it and creating a marble effect of all the colors. Then I was suddenly dipped through these swirled colors of paint like it was off the table and over me. I was suddenly in it as it poured over me. Beautiful. I just saw like that giant orb that I was talking about. I felt like I was supposed to just lay down real quick on the grass before it all fell over me. And I saw a lot of people doing that, like just real quick laying down and having all this fall over us. I saw something slide down kind of like it would on a normal slide, except for there was nothing in the air. It's not like there was a slide in the air, but it slid down like that, right over and into somebody. Aaron Michael said, ha ha ha, yes, Christine, I see it. And as it gets very, very close, it kind of consumes us. Then all of these different things are released. Yes. Oh, gee, yes. Chris said, yes, I heard the word transformation when you said you saw and heard the orb. Thank you, Lord. Well, all of a sudden, this power from the Lord has come over me, and it's just I'm just releasing this into the atmosphere there with everybody there. And so I hope you're receiving this. This can bring healing. It can bring wisdom. Just the Holy Spirit will overcome you. And then all of a sudden, I just felt all of that stop, and there was this such peace, calm. I just felt this beautiful just release of peace and calm. We were just resting, and I the smell is beautiful, and oh, I just feel love, complete love. I'm feeling like the sprinkling rain sort of coming down. Every time a drop comes and hits my skin, I feel the energy in it. And Yanu says, shofar like a breeze blowing. Aaron Michael said, I can feel it on my skin in the natural. I just felt a drop hit my arm. Well, Jesus, we want to just commit all of this time to you. Thank you so much for giving us each other and giving us more of your love and Father's love. Thank you, Father. Yahweh, you are so good. We love you. Your creation is so beautiful. We are overwhelmed by your love and your presence. Oh, God, please take all that we are. Take all of this as a sacrifice for you, just a love sacrifice. And thank you for loving us even through it. Jesus, please seal all of this with your blood so the enemy can't come in and try to snatch it. We love you. Thank you for this. Amen. Chris said, thank you, ladies, so much for all you've taught and given us through this teaching time. You're welcome. We love you very much. We're going to be doing this class again soon. We'll let you guys know if you want to join in again, if you've missed some of it or whatever. But we'll let you know the details coming up in the future. So anyway, I love you guys. I gotta go. I have an 8 o'clock appointment actually.
Love y'all. Bye.
Thank you, ladies.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.